Hey, Andy.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
All right,
I wasn't
welcome
sure if
to
I
it.
was coming up straight away. I was like, "Ooh, what's going on?"
I put
Nice
you
to
up
see you,
first
mate.
to see if you could just improvise and see how that went.
Yeah. It'd be like that. Do you remember that AMA that we did about a year ago? And it was a Binance AMA, and the person fell off who was presenting it about halfway
Yeah,
through, and I had
yeah.
to present the whole thing without anyone asking questions. It's like
I
really
guess I'll
unorganized.
start talking about stuff. All right. Welcome,
Yeah.
everybody. This is the YOM Town Hall, and I'll do it real quick. If you don't know who YOM is, you're going to soon enough. But what YOM is we are a first of its kind decentralized cloud gaming network. We allow you to pixel stream AAA quality games built in Unreal to users through the web browser on any device, a low-end laptop and tablet and phone. So it eliminates the need for having a big gaming rig at home or a console if you want to play these high-end games, or if you got a buddy who doesn't have the big computer but you play these big games, you can send them the link on the website and they can start playing. And the way we do this is people who have a gaming rig want to earn passive income. They let us borrow their computer. You put your gaming rig on our network, and we pay you to allow us to use your computer when you're not using it. So it can be a pretty hefty passive income stream for you. We do things like embed the game Unreal into Telegram. As far as I know, we're the only ones who can embed a game into an Unreal game into Telegram. We also have Chromecast working, so you can stream it mobile device on your phone and broadcast it to your TV set. And we're working on a Discord wrapper as well. So if you're a game developer working inside of Unreal and you want a better way to get your game out to more players as fast as possible with as low cost as possible, a decentralized cloud gaming network is the way to go. And that's who we are. We're YOM. Any to leave anything off of the cool intro? That seems like it's about
No, it
everything.
sounds
Yeah.
great. I always like the bit. It reminds me of the video that you did where you say, "We are YOM." It's almost like one of those. I'm trying to think what the advert is, Apple or something like that. You should be a voiceover, mate. Anyway,
Well, what
no,
we say
it's
is
all good.
gaming for everyone, everywhere, right? We're our goal is to get gaming available to anybody, anywhere, the highest powered gaming, the best looking gaming. Unreal's got the best engine, and we just want to make sure that people who don't necessarily have the beefy rigs can still play these Unreal games. So we're going to go over it. So we got my agenda for today. We'll give you some updates on the project, and then Andy's going to talk because he went to London Games Festival last week, and I had once again this is kind of reversing the tables because we've done this twice now with me telling you how it was, but I haven't really talked to you about how game on the London trip went. So you can let me know how that goes. But let me first go through some of the updates from the project so people get an understanding. We do have a stack of more events that are coming up in April. I'm going to San Paulo to go to Games Latam at the end of April. At the same time, you guys are going to Dubai for Token 2049. So that's going to be awesome. I have Unreal Fest. I just got my ticket. So I'm going to Unreal Fest in Orlando. That's, Epic's big adventure when they have all the developers get together. That's the first week of June. Those 4 days in June. And you're going to develop Brighton, which is back in England. Yeah.
In
July,
Brighton, which is lovely,
right?
which is a seaside town in the south of England.
Nice.
Yeah,
South.
south. Yeah.
All right. The other big news, right, is that the allow list is now closed. So we opened up an allow list to get people who are part of our community to get a special discount, purchase our node licenses at half off, really, a little more than half off, but $99 because they're normally going to go for $199. Now, this is the only time we're going to sell them for this cheap, and we really only have a limited amount. But we well exceeded the amount of signups that we were looking for. We were looking for, I don't know, we only want to sell a certain amount, and the reason for that is if we have too many nodes but not enough games running, then the node operators aren't going to get any kind of real helpful yield. It'll be kind of disappointing. So we want to kind of keep the games and the nodes in balance with each other. If we have too many games and not enough nodes, then people who are wanting to play the games, they wait. If we have too many nodes, again, you're not earning as much salt diluted. So we limited this. We're limiting it to 100 in this first. They're all part of the Genesis series. Everything we sell this year is going to be part of the Genesis series. But this OG collection is this 100 that we made available to people who signed up on the allow list. And then there are some that we went to an earlier sale to one of our trusted communities. They've also got the OGs. What was I going to say? I'm going to say something, Andy.
I was just going to say that these 100 will be the first tranche that get turned on. So obviously they'll be the first that start earning revenue. And as I think you said, just to emphasize, this price will not be offered again. So right. Again, it's a great.
I know what I was going to say too. And we're limiting it to 5 per wallet because we want to make sure that we spread the wealth around. right? But even though we're saying this is the only time you get them at 99, we do expect that we'll still have other sales off of the 199 when we want to hit certain regions or we want to hit certain communities. We want to incentivize people to buy. 199 is going to be the base level price, and then we'll always adjust when we feel like we've got a good opportunity to get more nodes or that we need more nodes quickly because some big game is coming online. I think I got everything there. The minting date, we're targeting the minting date to be the week after Easter. There's still some checks that we want to make sure that the system is rock solid before we do the minting. So you can expect that to happen in about 2 weeks, but keep in touch with all of our socials. If you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is a good time to go ahead and do that now. And if you have, thank you. And then pass the link around. Also, if you're watching on I've got it now on LinkedIn and inside of Twitter. You can follow our LinkedIn as well if you're a gaming industry person. Again, gaming industry uses a lot more LinkedIn than they do Telegram, turns out, or even Twitter. So if you can follow me or reach out, make a contact request for me at LinkedIn. That'd be great too. All right, so that is the allow list. The next piece of news is the testnet is live. So last week we went live with testnet. It was a big event. If you didn't see that broadcast, it was pretty cool. What we're doing is we've taken Valley of the Ancients, which is a demo that Unreal makes available, and putting it on all the nodes. We're heavy in Europe and we've got some in North America. So this is a good test for us. Now, what we discovered when we went live is that the onboarding process is still a little bit janky for some of the people. So what we're doing, if you don't know the whole system, is we make available an external hard drive for those people who are on the alpha test. And this is also part of the sale that we're doing, not the allow list sale, but further down the track, we'll sell these hosts, which will come with licenses. But it is meant to be plug and play. You just plug it into your computer and boot up off of it. Well, there were certain idiosyncrasies that we found depending on each person's home setup, which I guess is to be expected. So our CTO and our dev team is working with each individual tester to make sure that it came online and it's gone online. And now we've got most of this ironed out. There's still some work to do to make this more optimal. But once that happens, the next step for us is to add more to that test network. And we are really looking for places in the world that are close to the internet hubs. Those end up being cities like Singapore, Dubai, Hong Kong, LA, and San Francisco. We're going to put a post up, but if you have interest in being part of Wave 2, you have a gaming rig that you have available, best if it's available 24/7, but it doesn't have to be. Has to have an Ethernet cable though, and VPN has to be off for this test. If you want to do that, want to be part of that, certainly hit us up in the socials and we'll respond, but also we'll get a post out pretty soon. We are looking to add another 12 units out there at these high traffic hubs because it makes it easier for us to scale up when you're close by to a fast connection. I think that I hit everything. Andy, anything you want to add, any color to all of that?
I was just sending you a message on something to add, and then I thought, no, we'll leave that because it's not quite finalized, but it's another interesting development from a tech perspective.
What's that?
I can't say now, can I? We're going to say.
I'm sorry.
Hey, no. All I was going to say is that we have got. So we've got the live SSDs that are coming in. We've got one internal SSD that's getting fired up in Spain at the moment, where I am, which will be really interesting because obviously one of our long-term plans is to partner with some of the PC and gaming rig makers, Omen or whoever, and basically put an SSD inside there. So instead of having the SSD as an external, it's an internal. So again, while there is, and again, I think it's funny, isn't it? Anyone who thinks they're going to launch a product and it'd be perfect off the bat is crazy. They've obviously never done anything before. So the nice thing here is that each of these little problems that's getting solved over the last week or 2 weeks, they're all getting documented. The process is getting documented. So when we go retail and we go mainstream, it just happens, and people get 3 instructions, 1, 2, 3, plug, press, play, and that's it. And I think that the same will be for the internal SSD. But I visualize this as, do you remember when, a year ago, Jeff, we were looking at the SDK for building the game and you had to go into GitHub and you had to do all these other bits. Now the point of the technology is, you just drag and drop your Unreal Engine game into the SDK, press go, and then obviously it's not quite that easy. It takes a few hours to upload and stuff, and then you just set the controllers, and it's like literally 3 hours. So all these processes that we're going through at the moment are really making it very user friendly and really easy for people to operate.
I just had a conversation with another publisher this morning talking about their focus is on independent games, and we went through the whole idea that independent games is really it's going to be a very exciting portion of the market going forward. The idea, again, he had the same thesis that we have, that the big studios are struggling because they spend 3 years, 4 years, and a lot of money making a game that doesn't hit. So it's a lot of risk. So they get risk averse and they start making the same game over and over again. But independent game studios and even the hobbyists, he's doing both at that level in both places. They're going to come up with the most creative experiences. They may be short, but I would contend that when you're going to build a game for inside of Telegram, you are going to change your approach, right? Because your user is going to have a different way of reaching the game and a different way to spread the game around. All those kinds of things that should be part of your game loop. So we're going to see some really creative games come around from these independent people who are using Unreal on the weekend and just working in a small studio with a buddy. Right? Those kinds of things would be really cool. He's looking at it as a win. We're looking at it as a win. So I wouldn't be surprised to see. We're going to talk to them some more, actually. OB hooked us up, Andy.
I was going to say, I think that sounds spot on. And again, if we think about, again, no one knows where quite the technology market's going to go. But really, if you think about it, you look at YouTube, then you have YouTube Shorts. You look at Facebook Shorts. You look at mobile gaming, and mobile gaming, some of it is intense and some of it's really, short games where people can go in, play for 3 or 4 minutes. You look at attention spans of people and how long they're lasting for. UGC is the future, and even there will be gaming studios who will start doing mini games. I mean, if you look at Roblox, the Roblox games that are UGC they're not like 5 hours long, are they? They're not massive strategy games that take 3 years to make.
That was somebody else I spoke to was like, he's got like 15 minutes to play a game because he's got kids and a wife and all that. And he jumps on and it's like, oh, now I got to do an update for this game that I love. Oh, well, crud. But again, with our system, the updates are happening on the network, not on your individual computer. So when you jump in, you got that 15 minutes to play, you actually can play. So, yep. We're getting questions, and I'm not going to jump to the questions just yet, but let's remember to return back to these. Let me instead ask Andy my questions I have of you.
Indeed.
London Games Festival. Now you've been to a couple of these conferences. How does this one compare to the ones you've been at before?
Yeah, well, interesting actually. So I've been to Gamescom in Cologne, which is the biggest in the world apparently, and that is insane. And I've been to Valencia, which is one round the corner from here, and I've been to various other kind of smaller ones as well. This probably fits somewhere in the middle. Now, I didn't realize, and I'm sure you didn't, Jeff, because of being in the US, but it's been going 10 years. So it's a full 100,000 people come over a 10-day period. Now, when you sort of go 100,000 people and you arrive, it's in the London Museum, which is kind of small, and it's in a brutalist architecture building from the 1970s. Apparently, it was a bomb site, and it was just brownfield till the either 70s or 50s, I can't remember, to be honest. And they built this beautiful, I say beautiful, I love brutalist. And if you don't know what brutalist is, it's like, it's concrete. Yeah, there's a Netflix, there's a Netflix film called The Brutalist, and it's the guy that created the architecture. And it's kind of minimalist, but, really kind of, I don't want to say dirty, but it's concrete, like square, rectangles, small windows.
When I went to the Czech Republic a couple of years ago, you'd note that some buildings were that, and other buildings were ornate, and they were, hundreds of years old. We assumed that was because of the World War II when they had to rebuild. They rebuilt them as utilitarian as possible. Yeah,
well, that's again, it's based on that style because the guy that designed it, and I can't remember his name, was from Eastern Europe, and he went to he did most of his stuff in the US, but some town in the West Constance or something, like somewhere miles away, and then he became famous anyway. He did these big places in Europe. Anyway, that was the design. So that was quite cool, and it's a beautiful place. I took a few photos, which I'll post in the group afterwards. So if you ever get to London, go, because it's like really cool, right in the centre of London, big lakes and stuff like this. Anyway, so that was great. It was an unusual combination actually between students and gaming companies. So there was lots of kids coming in, and you sort of walk in, there is individual games, and it's the best of class for each of the game styles and genres. So you sort of walk in and there's lots of Unity. It's probably about 80% Unity, 20% Unreal, maybe a little bit less actually, maybe even 10% Unreal. There was quite a few people developing their own kind of code. You know, one of the guys had built it in Python, and I was like, I mean, it was a very basic game, you know, but it was really interesting. As you go round, there's lots of really interesting styles to it. So I spoke to virtually everyone in there. We spoke to the people organizing it as well, which was quite cool. There's a guy called Michael who basically has been there for 10 years, and he's organized a lot of it. But there's a few really cool things we met. So we met the World Wildlife Federation, which they've done Unreal Engine metaverse type projects before. So they're, you know, very innovative, you know, really open-minded. They were like, yeah, look, this is great. We love it. You know, there's definitely some stuff that we could probably do there. We met, I spoke to the guys at Funko. So Funko, you know, the Pops, they've done an Unreal Engine game, which is on Steam at the moment. So that was kind of cool. And there was a few kind of smaller ones, but some really, really interesting. The one we've got a call with tomorrow, Jeff, like you've seen that one.
Oh, that
beautiful.
Yeah.
The guy basically, I mean, we won't get too excited because we'll tell you about it next week, hopefully. But, you know, the guy basically hand painted the shaders into the game. And I was like, you didn't use toon shaders? Like, no. It took him like 2.5 years to do it. And I mean, he's a really cool designer, really enthusiastic, loads of hair, you know, all this kind of stuff. So heavy metal head as well, you know, and he's like, yeah, you know, so you can tell by the music. But anyway, there was some cool people we met. I then met a few of our partners, and we had some great conversations with those guys, and then back for the Friday. So I flew in on the Thursday morning at like 10 a.m. and flew out Friday evening. So it was quite intense. I watched a few of the presentations and stuff, but it was a funny situation. I bumped into a guy from Nintendo on the way out, and he was sort of saying, you know, he was basically saying, yeah, it's a really interesting one because it's quite small, and there's probably at any one time there's maybe, because it's really, all the games are really close together, so you've got to squeeze past, then you've got to grab the, you know, there was publishers and, you know, developers there, so you've got to grab the people, and you sort of squashed up, and the kids are coming in trying to play the games and stuff like this, and it was a really kind of interesting kind of way of doing things, but it felt really you know, and again, this is what the Nintendo guy was saying as well. It felt really kind of down to earth, really kind of, you can go and talk to anyone in the place, but also it was big enough and there was enough really good high quality games, you know. So Valencia, for example, they have a game off, and it was started as everybody getting a LAN and basically sitting down, plugging in and playing games together, you know, like 20 people all together. Now it's about 400 people, but it's very much B2C. So it's like, you know, there isn't so much of a business piece. This felt more business orientated, and probably 30%, you know.
So GDC, we said it almost felt a little bit like a job fair because there were so many people who were like looking for work who at this place. Is that same with Brighton or not? Or
no. There was a couple of people. There was a couple of like 20-year-olds who were like, there was one guy who was like selling the dream. I almost got him and said, listen, let's talk, because he was really, every person I was going to talk to, he was already in front of me going, yeah, and then I've done this. And then I caught up with him at the next one, and he was, yeah, I've done, you know, that kind of thing. But it wasn't so much it definitely wasn't a job fair. There was people definitely walking around doing that. I felt, again, you know, you talk about GDC, I mean, Gamescom is just insane. There's like whole big aircraft carriers or hangars where there's thousands of people. They're 2 stories high with massive TV screens, with so intense the music and stuff like that, you know, the B2B bit is on 3 floors, you know, alone. So no, but it was good. I liked it.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's a little more intimate than GDC. It sounds like from the name, from the sounds of it, but it's good. I mean, everyone's got their own flavor. Yeah. We'll see what the Games with Tom looks like when I get down there. Let me ask you this question, because I've been doing it now we've had a lot of from the Denver and the GDC trips, and from our outreach through LinkedIn, I've been doing phone call after phone call, which is great. And again, halfway through my calls, they're finishing the pitch to me. They start saying the things that I was going to say, but they've already figured it out. You know, how it's as a funnel. This is a great way to get people to start playing the game before they download the full thing. That was one of the guys I talked to. But are you finding it the same when you talk about what we've built, that it's pretty well sells itself kind of thing?
Yes, it does. There's some interesting bits where obviously we're British, so we're a little bit more conservative than the American cousins that we have.
No.
Exactly. Well, I'm not. But there was a little bit where some of the people at the conference initially, depending on who they were, and again, we talked about this, you know, the developers, they're a bit more like, you know, there was Konami we were talking to, I was talking to, and they were a bit more like, oh, hold on, you know, we're not, it was almost seen as a bit more of an exhibition as opposed to a sales kind of thing. So there was some who were a bit like, oh, you know, they didn't, it wasn't they didn't want to discuss it, they wanted to take it away and have conversations later. And then there were other ones like the guys we're talking to tomorrow who were like, this is amazing. And they were like, yeah, we love it, we love it, we love it. We got a few that were sort of like, oh yeah, like Stadia or like GeForce Now. And I'm like, well, actually, this is how we differ from those guys. And here is how we complement, you know. So, for example, GeForce Now, you know, I was talking to Lukey and he was saying, yeah, look, on Thursday last week, he spent an hour trying to get into a game because all the servers were full. And that was a Thursday. So, you know, this is a bit where having what we have, we can scale up and down and, you know, we can easily optimize things. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. But again, everybody seemed to get it. And the ones that were building in Unreal were like, yeah, this is brilliant.
Right. Hey, that's the only, I mean, that's the only hookup. The only hitch I keep getting is, oh, but we're in Unreal, we're in Unity right now. Okay, well, it's on the roadmap. We expect to do the SDK before the end of the year. But and again, I still contend it's worth talking to those folks because if you're going to design a game, you want to design it for your end platform. And if your end platform is a cloud network, you're going to do different things for your game loop, right? So still worth talking to those folks as we get ready to do Unreal. All right.
Although just one point on that, Jeff, I mean, I think that the amount of excitement that you've got from Denver and from GDC and the amount of excitement I've got purely from this relatively small, I mean, it's 100,000 people go to it, but it is from a B2B perspective, it's quite small. I'm a little bit apprehensive. I'm a little bit that we sort of go out and talk to too many people, then we're going to have so many games that want to be live. We're going to have to basically ramp the node side really quickly.
I have that same fear, but I mean, it's the best kind of fear to have.
It's a problem to have. It's a great problem, isn't it? Yeah.
And we were doing that at the beginning. We were talking about which end of the sale is going to be the harder part: selling the nodes or selling the games to the network to the game developers. That question's been answered to me. That selling the games to the networks to game developers is falling off a log. Selling the nodes is only difficult because there have been so many other node sales that are not truly DePINs who are shilling something that doesn't actually have a marketplace, and the market is and the crypto market's going sideways or downward. So that we have to get people over the idea that no, we're not like the others. We're doing things differently. We don't scale up like the first ones are 100, the second ones are 200, then it's 400, then it's 800, then it's 12. You know. That whole idea of scaling the price of your nodes just seems silly because we need nodes in every household at some point, like, or, you know, everywhere. So it's a baseline $199, and that should handle it for each license, and then the hardware itself will have a different price. But we want to keep it steady. It's like the retail market. This idea of ramping up the price as you go. Besides the fact that we're doing some discounts for the community early on, there's no sense in like skyrocketing the price and then pricing people out of the market. We want people to have these nodes and to make money at home.
Yeah.
Let me one last question, and then we'll get to the questions from the community. So I sent one of my buddies I worked with in the past. I worked with him at Pandemic when I was in Australia. Super smart guy, like really one of the smartest, besides Europe, maybe the smartest guys I've ever worked with. He's Unreal heavy. I sent him the Matthew Ball report that I keep on talking about, like what he was talking about the gaming industry, just to find out, did he agree with the conclusions that Matthew Ball had that, again, point to YOM, these idea of AAA gaming on a mobile device, a better kind of cloud system, innovative games that are taking advantage of this new technology. Do you see it like we see it? And he was like, yeah, this is he read the same thing and said and landed in the same place. Very excited about what we're building. But have you talked to Kim or other people? Do you kind of have that same? I mean, you go to
Well,
support now, yeah.
yeah. I mean, the interesting thing I think is, we were on a couple of weeks ago, weren't we, with one of the CEOs of one of the biggest gaming companies. Well, not the biggest, but one of the most reputable gaming companies in the world with billion turnover plus. And he said this is the most innovative technology he's seen in 5 years. Now, that's a great statement. I think that what a lot of people are saying, they're saying, and again, Kim, who's one of our advisors, great example, he was like, yeah, it's brilliant. He said it's great. I think there's a lot of people, if they're not futurists, that they need to see it working first, and they need to see how it's going to work and how it's going to operate before they do it. I think the same with mobile gaming 10 years ago. People were like, oh, that's rubbish, and then all of a sudden people are like, hold on, 76% of money comes through mobile gaming because it's easily accessible. Now imagine we're the same as mobile gaming, but with better quality.
So
So
that happened to me earlier in the week. I
yeah,
was on with a group that I met in Denver, and I met I guess the business guy, and he put the tech guy on, and I sent him the link to the test node, and he was in London. It played.
yeah,
He loved it. He's like, "Oh, this is amazing." He was in it for like 4 or 5 seconds. And he's like, "Okay, I get it. This is awesome. How do we work together?" It was super
nice.
fast. You're right. Having the games live, having testnet live, I almost don't need to say anything more than that. But I do because I like to talk.
Yeah, don't we both, mate? You know what I mean? I think though there was an interesting bit when I've been talking to a few of the guys, and they're saying also this is where I think we've got the timing really well. End of 2025, starting into 2026, the games industry has been through a lot of pain, and there's been a lot of people. I mean, you've said this about friends that you've seen who are not working at the moment. There's been loads of people who are on the streets now. If people are on the street, what does that do? It means that you've got individuals who are basically going to build their own games, who are talented, whether they're, user-generated content or whether they're mini indie studios of one or two or whatever the case is. I think there's going to be loads of mini games coming to the market. And this is what I'm hearing from Kim and various other people. 2025 into 2026 is where the market should pick up again because people want to play games. It's not like people are going down in the amount of games they're playing. Roblox is a perfect example. I mean, I can't remember what their daily users is at the moment. It's like 150 million a day or something crazy. And they're developing the business, and there's 2.5 million builders in Roblox. We're in this right space at the right time, especially because actually there's a bit of me where I was thinking, well, hold on, we want the gaming industry to be pumping. And in some ways, we don't want it to be pumping. We want it to be about to pump in exactly the right time that we come into the market with a finished, live node product and everything running perfectly. If we had 50 companies coming to us today going, right, we've got to be live in a month, we'd struggle. Yeah. So actually, I think the end of the year works really well.
Yeah. All right, so some of the questions we've got from the community members. Where are the NAS providers located that will be able to run these 99 nodes soon? So worldwide, right? I don't think the NASs that we're talking to have got coverage worldwide, and I think then it becomes I don't know that all of them allow you to pick the region that you want to put your unit in. Some of them probably will, and some of them may not. So you're just kind of at their whim. But obviously, the ones who allow you to pick the region, that's the smarter thing to do because you can kind of go where the games are either underutilized, the nodes are underutilized, or the games are good. It's a good market for the games. And you talk to the NAS more than me.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add on that, actually, we missed one, so we need to go to Tony, who's one down from that. The NAS providers, one of the things I found is that we're innovating within the NAS provision. So a lot of the NAS providers, they do GPU. So it doesn't really matter where it is. Whereas for us, the location is really important. So we're talking to a few of the NAS providers for doing dynamic nodes, which basically would be 4 p.m. till midnight in China or Asia, 4 p.m. to midnight in the UK and Europe, 4 p.m. to midnight in the US. Now, again, if you think about that, the most busy times for gamers is 4 p.m. till midnight. Yeah, we can do 8-hour tractions moving the nodes because effectively you're just firing up one and then another. Now, there's got to be a combination here of base level. So you need a base level of these PCs, you know, of a gaming PC, which is on all the time. And then the peak periods, you can move between NAS providers, or people, you know, maybe go, well, actually, I'm just going to turn mine on now because it's the peak time and I know it is. And I think there's so many innovative pieces that we can do both with our own, you know, I'm calling them mini data centers, which is your gaming rig, and the NAS provider around altering where you do it, you know, time wise. So I think that's, yeah, hopefully that answers the question around strategy and you know, locations, etc.
But you're right. I skipped over Tony. I apologize, Tony. Things sound like they're full steam ahead. How ready are peak for YOM's arrival? Oh boy, that's a good question.
Born ready.
I just had a conversation with them this morning about season 2, which they're working on giving me a date for when season 2. They told me by the end of this week they can get season 2 of their campaign up and running. They're ready to change. We can still, we're going to be able to mint the NFTs or the licenses, and so that's not really much of a problem. I think that they have a lot of projects that have launched already, and and some of them are very active node wise. So it only makes sense that they spend more time, I guess, with them than us. But they're hounding us for, hey, get us some ways for us to help market you, and that's kind of on my plate is more help. Like they're asking to help more, and it's really just a matter of us freeing up to be able to use them. Anything there, Andy? I don't think you've been speaking to people.
No, not at all. No, but again, I think they're ready. They're good to go. You know, they've got a few new staff members on as well, from what I understand. So I think
I think they've like doubled their staff. They've added quite a number of people.
That's good.
Can we get Rust on Telegram, Frank?
Of course.
Rust, the programming,
the game. No, Rust is a game. So it's the survival game.
Oh, it's built in Unreal. Yeah, I mean,
it is in Unreal. Yeah. My son plays it. It's a good game.
But again, the developer has to install our SDK. You can't just grab the executable and stick it on our network. It needs to have integration done, and that again is to protect the games from being pirated and all that. Tony also asked, unsuccessful allow listers. Will there be concessions made for them in future sales? Yes. I mean, the community members should still have access to a lower than full retail, but we do want people who are taking the jump in at the earliest, we want to give them the best deal, and just keep an eye on our socials for what time that the minting goes live. Those 100 nodes, if they sell out very quick, would make us look great. But at the same time, there's going to be some people disappointed, which isn't awesome, but that's how this market is. And again, we don't want to overshoot and have too many nodes out there for not the game load that we're going to have. What are the fees? What will the fees be for delegates, and what is there a possibility of price hikes? That is set by the NAS providers, though we have some leverage to kind of deal with them. You know, the upside is there's going to be competition. There'll be more than one NAS provider, so you can play one off the other. Andy, is anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, we need it to not be too expensive. So, you know, we are looking at all options, all angles. This dynamic delegation will mean pretty much that, you know, if you do the dynamic delegation, you'll earn a fortune. So, or you should earn a fortune, just to caveat that. But yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's got to work. So, you know, and all the numbers we're seeing so far is that the actual cost versus, or even for the worst case scenario, the cost versus revenue and returns, it's pretty good, you know.
Well, I think more than pretty good. I don't think we found anybody whose node offered more return than you said. But again, we have a richer market. It's games. Like who doesn't want to, who doesn't have access to games?
Yeah.
All right. I think we hit all the questions, and we kept it about 36 minutes.
Now, okay. I was just going to say, actually, when I was in London, I put a little bet out there for some YOM who had to guess which airport I was at. And I was going to do more of them, and I got so busy doing the actual meetings and stuff like that. I didn't do any more after that. But let me have a quick look now, because I just need to have a look as to who I owe.
Frank
who I owe YOM to.
All right. So why are you looking for that? Frank, you're asking, can you still operate your gaming PC if you're running a node on it too? No, the way that it's currently configured, our node is you reboot your gaming rig off of our host, our SSD. That is for two reasons. We don't want to install software on your computer, and we don't want the people who are operating hosts should not have root access to the game data. So that's why the external drive or the secured drive. So no, what you should be thinking of is when I'm sleeping at night, when I go to work, or if I have a second gaming rig that I've upgraded, my old gaming rig sitting around because I've upgraded and got a new gaming rig. That's the kind of rig that you'd put on the network, and those are the kind of hours on if you're self-hosting the node. I hope that answers the question. I rambled a bit.
And we'll find out in a minute on that one. And on the winner of 100 YOM, I might upgrade it a bit. Although saying that, I don't think I've got any YOM. I've bridged all mine. So I'm like, I'll have to pay them in a year. Maybe I'll do USDC or something. But it was Sawa. So I did say mods included and everyone else. So Sawa, I owe you some casharoonie in some way. Right. So I'll go on the group, and I'll in our private groups, I'll message you and send me your wallet address, and I'll send you some cash.
He knows where to find you. All right, thanks everybody. Next week we have another guest lined up, so it'll be the same. We're going to use this format. This format's a little bit different, where I'm going through the updates for the project first, and then launching into the talk. We'll keep that format. It does seem like a lot of people were asking, hey, we do want alpha, we do want regular project updates. And I hadn't been doing that for some of the guests that we had, but let's do that. And it seems fine to do that way. It seems we get
it works. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Be good. Again, join the YOM, the YouTube channel. Follow me on LinkedIn and follow us on X. Cheers.
Good stuff, guys. Take care. Thanks.